Hello, welcome to our video presentation about documentary storytelling. Documentary storytelling raises awareness and has a code to educate audiences on a specific topic or event. The Broadcasting Services Standard in 2020 defines documentary as a creative treatment of actuality. In an ideal world, a documentary would portray the truth 100% of the time, to say things about it or for it. In order to speak the truth, the photograph must be integrated into a statement subject to complex rules of discourse. Wilkins describes ethics of code as, quote, explicit forms of practical communication created in a historically significant society and produced under particular social, economic, and political conditions. The documentary storytelling form needs an updated code of ethics to help keep everyone safer and less likely to be taken advantage of. Some of the different forms of documentary that we will be discussing are streaming documentary/TV broadcasting, observational documentaries, and Indigenous documentaries. Documentary storytelling has, quote, no institutional guidelines to help them navigate such issues, which is alarming that this whole form of storytelling has been left unchecked for years. So this presentation aims to highlight current ethical surrounding documentary storytelling, the problems within these, and how we can use journalism, ethics, and narrative therapy to update the change of code of ethics.
It's important to understand the approval process for a documentary to air across Australian screens, as it demonstrates how the process doesn't involve any ethical considerations, only tests to pass. However, considering Kant's deontology ethics, the guidelines provide a basis for approving, making them a consistent standard that governs the approval process. The documentary guidelines set by the Australian Communications and Media Authority outline what is considered a documentary and the requirements for it to be approved for air. The ACMDA are an independent Commonwealth statutory authority to regulate communications and media services in Australia. The documentary guidelines are included in the Broadcasting Services Standard for commercial TV licenses. This means a documentary must meet these guidelines to be aired. The ACMDA defines documentary as a creative treatment of actuality. This differs from other factual programming, including news, current affairs, sports coverage, magazines, or light entertainment programs. To meet the standards appropriate for television, a documentary must pass 2 tests. The first test tests the actuality, ensuring a documentary subject is grounded in fact or real life. This means that the content for the program exists independently of the program itself. The second test measures the creative treatment of the subject, meaning the program will demonstrate original thought or expression. Evidently, the 2 tests that approve a documentary to be aired don't include any ethical considerations. This can be harmful, as a documentary that's made in an unethical way can be approved for simply being a creative treatment of actuality. When a documentary isn't held to any ethical considerations, is it then just another form of reality TV? Much like Tiger King, a Netflix series documenting the life of a very wild pet owner, this form of documentary presents itself for the entertainment side, with fast-paced editing and dialogue. This is an observational documentary, but even so, the subject is acting in the presence of a camera, meaning that the creative treatment of actuality needs to have more boundaries and guidelines to support the subject of a documentary. Observational documentaries can also harm Indigenous communities, as the producers have little to no knowledge of the communities they are inviting themselves in. This is called parachute journalism, and is quite significant in the journalism world. One way to rectify this is to allow these communities to talk about themselves in their own time to wider audiences, bringing awareness willingly. Indigenous communities don't get enough recognition, but they bridge the grey areas of ethical issues. My Life as I Live It, made in 1993, is an autobiographical documentary and the socio-political struggle of an Aboriginal black woman, spoken and directed by said woman. This eliminates the grey area between the director and the subject by merging the two in the best way possible.
As Professor Kate Nash notes, documentary claims a relationship to both journalism and art. Documentaries are a form of journalism, therefore the practice can be linked to deontology ethics, as there is a duty and obligation to express truthful experiences to the public. As outlined by the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance in their Journalist Code of Ethic, journalist members of the MEAA must uphold certain ethical standards. These standards can be summarized to honesty, fairness, independence, and respect for the rights of others. All documentary filmmakers should also uphold these standards, as there is a lack of ethical standards tailored for documentary filmmakers. An example of when these code of ethics should have been in place is when the Netflix documentary called What Jennifer Did, creating a photo using AI, and presented it as a real archival photo. This is not honest, fair, or right for a documentary of any form to falsify images and videos to support a narrative to gain the trust of the viewers. This is also happening with the AI-generated voice of David Attenborough, to entice audiences to engage with their documentaries and make it more believable. People put trust in a documentary to tell them facts of a topic. By using the MEAA Code of Ethics to help uphold this trust and also to hold directors and producers responsible for the misconducts they create. Journalist Stephen Ward stresses that almost every profession and every ethical and legal system makes the avoidance of unjustifiable harm a basic obligation. This universal moral obligation to avoid unjustifiable is linked to virtue ethics. Coined by Aristotle, virtue ethics considers the need to lead with traits including good, truthfulness, and justice. In this regard, documentary filmmakers should present the truth, clearly disclose information sources and publicly credit outsourced material, and ensure all participants understand their role in the documentary. If documentary makers lead with these ethical codes, it can create the best ethical outcome.
Documentary storytelling is past overdue for a Code of Ethics update. These decisions should be in place to help support the subjects of the documentary from harm and being taken advantage of from filmmakers, and also help guide filmmakers into making good decisions. Codes of ethics are one of several influences on decision-making in concrete situations, and it is the filmmakers', and I quote, responsibility to work transparently right through to the final product so that audiences can judge the film's ethics stance. Narrative therapy focuses on the power concerns between clients and an institutional body. Some of these include remaining aware of potential power imbalances, negotiate research decision transparently, provide ongoing information as it becomes available, and include in writing and representations information about research dilemmas and the means by which they have been resolved. These points can also reflect the relationship between director and the subject in documentaries, and can also help shape a new form of ethics tailored to documentary storytelling. Since the documentary medium doesn't have an official code of ethics to guide the practice, we propose that documentary filmmakers uphold the Journalist Code of Ethics set by the MEAA, but also create a dedicated code of ethics for documentaries. As noted in deontology ethics, these codes of ethics create an ethical foundation and expectations in behaviour to guide the documentary making process. The terms of the documentary code of ethics that we propose include: disclose any bias and preconceptions about the subject matter, respect and consider the socio-economic conditions of the subjects, credit intellectual property and outsourced materials, not manipulating the truth, and treating all subjects fairly and with respect.
It is obvious the paramount importance of regulation within documentary storytelling. The 5 points that are listed as our proposed code of ethics, alongside the ethical paradigm of journalism and narrative, would ensure the conditions and quality of documentaries are upheld in a common standard. This honesty system can be monitored and facilitated by a board who can verify any bias or the general honesty of a documentary storytelling, decreasing the ethical grey areas. Thank you for watching.